Good day, snow lovers. This is Ethan from the Sawtooth Avalanche Center with your weekend update for Friday, March 11th, 2022. As a reminder, this should not replace the forecast, but should be used to get a little bit of additional information on what's going on, what happened last week, and what we expect this weekend and into the following week. So let's get started. First off, we'll remember what happened last week. We had a small storm Tuesday and Wednesday. So that's March 8th and March 9th, followed by some wind on Thursday and Friday. This plot here shows the lower Titus weather station, which is just south of Galena Summit. And what you can see is that we had a really, really warm end to the week. Last week, we were in the 40s and even 50 during the day and kind of 30 at night. And then we just had this downward trend as that Arctic air mass came in over the weekend. Then we kind of flatlined and we stayed there very, very cold over the last 4 or 5 days, particularly yesterday, where highs were maybe only in the teens Fahrenheit and lows were well below zero last night. If we overlay that little storm that I just mentioned here, it kind of occurred in this little box. So if we look at the snow depth now, the snow depth was staying relatively constant because it wasn't snowing. Leading into that small storm, we had a little bump and then it kind of settled or trailed off since then. So what did that do to our danger? This is in the Sawtooth and Western Smokies zone. Again, during that cooling off following the warm period last week, we went down to low danger as the surfaces locked up tight and we got rid of those wet avalanche problems. That little storm came in on Tuesday in the afternoon and that bumped us up to moderate danger, and that's where we sit currently. The exception to that is in the Wood River Valley and Soldier Mountains, which really just didn't get enough precipitation in that small storm to move the needle. So what does it look like out there right now? Well, we have wind slabs at the surface that formed Tuesday and Wednesday during that small storm and with wind following those storms. And we also have weak snow in the upper 1 to 2 feet of the snowpack where some of these wind slabs are now sitting on top of. This picture is from the head of Apollo Creek, which is a fork off of Baker Creek in the Smoky Mountains. And this small wind slab was failing just above the crust that formed after last week's warm up. This video was sent in to us early this morning, and you can see quite a bit of wind transport going on. This is in the northern boulders. So the tricky part out there really right now is, are you going to run into your run-of-the-mill standard wind slab, or are you going to run into a wind slab that's sitting on top of a weak layer? And unfortunately, the weak layers are highly variable across the forecast area. This picture here is again from the head of Apollo Creek. And you can see this stripe of super, super weak facets sitting below about a foot of snow near the surface. Definitely a spooky setup. This particular layer of facets was formed during our long drought. So that's pretty common on middle and upper elevation shaded aspects in our northern 3 zones. So kind of west and north of Galena Summit, including the White Clouds and Banner. This picture is from a pit that Chris dug yesterday in the Sawtooths. And again, he was finding that weak interface. It wasn't quite as problematic down here for him, just under about a foot, a little over a foot of snow, 1.5 feet of snow actually. But there's also another weak layer that we're kind of paying attention to. It's just barely getting buried at this point, and that sits just below a crust that was formed during rain and really warm temperatures last week. It really doesn't have much snow on it, as you can see at this point, only 8 centimeters here, a few inches, but we're getting to the point where we might have to start worrying about this later, this layer, if the snow through the weekend and into next week starts to materialize. Kind of throwing into the mix this today, as well as particularly tomorrow, which will be Saturday, is the threat of some wet avalanches with that new snow sitting on top of that crust that I just mentioned. We are going to have some wet avalanches coming down. My guess is the peak of that is going to be tomorrow, which will be about 10 degrees warmer than today, which is Friday. And there should be a lot more sun in the sky. Those should be pretty predictable, but there might be quite a few of them, and they could be moving pretty fast as they're sliding down some stout crusts that we were just mentioning. Looking ahead, we have a small storm coming in on Saturday night into Sunday. So far, it looks this plot or this image here is showing kind of, I guess this is going to be the pass right here. This is the Wood River Valley down in here, and the spine of the Sawtooths kind of goes up this direction, and Banner Summit is up here. And these brighter green colors are the highlight of where we're supposed to get the most snow Saturday into Sunday. And it's looking like Banner and the Sawtooths could get anywhere potentially up to 8 inches if it really pans out. Maybe half that at Galena Summit, and then quite a bit less as we move our way down into the Wood River Valley and the Southern Mountains. But enough snow to keep our slab avalanche problems pretty interesting, particularly as we start to keep adding some load to those weak layers that we were just discussing in the previous. So please keep sharing what you see out there. We've been getting some really great videos and pictures recently. So thank you guys for that. And we'll talk to you again next week.